Right now, while you're watching this, there's an ant colony under your garden expanding by the hour. It didn't send you an invitation. It didn't ask permission. One queen, laying up to a couple of thousand eggs a month once she's established, sitting somewhere under that innocent-looking mound of loose soil by your patio, or your vegetable bed, or the crack in your driveway you've been ignoring since spring, and every single day you spend spraying the ants you can see, and calling it done. That colony gets bigger, sends out more foragers, and in a lot of species, buds off entirely new satellite colonies somewhere else in your yard. Here's the part that trips almost everyone up. The ants marching across your patio table are not the problem. They're the symptom. The actual problem is underground, invisible, and completely unaffected by the can of spray you just used. So in the next few minutes, I'm going to walk you through 7 real methods for dealing with garden ants and anthills. In the order you should actually use them. How to find out what you're really dealing with before you touch anything. The one bait trick that does 2 jobs at once and is the closest thing to a guaranteed colony. Kill you'll get, without calling a professional, the boiling water and soap methods that work in minutes when you need something fast. The one mistake that quietly cancels out every other method on this list, and a completely free bonus fix at the end using things you were about to throw in the bin. Hang on to your coffee grounds and your citrus peels this week. You'll want them later. Let's get into it. Number 1. Trace the trail to the nest. Before you spray, pour, or sprinkle anything, spend 5 minutes just watching. Find a line of ants and follow it, in both directions, all the way to the ends. One end usually leads to a food source. A dropped crumb on the patio. A bowl left out for the dog. Or, very often in a garden specifically, a plant crawling with aphids. The other end leads to the actual nest, which might be the classic domed mound of loose soil you're picturing. Or it might be nothing more than a small, unassuming hole between paving slabs, under a stepping stone, or at the base of a shrub. This matters because ants in the garden is actually at least 2 different problems wearing the same disguise. If the trail leads to aphids on your roses or your beans, you don't have an ant problem so much as an aphid problem with ants working security for it. Ants will farm aphids for their sugary honeydew and fight off the ladybugs and lacewings that would otherwise wipe the aphids out for you. Kill the ants there without addressing the aphids, and a new set of ants finds that same buffet within days. If the trail leads to a genuine mound in open lawn or a garden bed, you're dealing with a full colony that needs a different approach entirely. Quick note here, every one of the 7 methods coming up works better once you know which of these 2 situations you're actually in. So don't skip this step, even though it feels like the boring one. Also worth saying plainly, not every ant is your enemy. Ants aerate compacted soil as they tunnel through it. They scavenge dead insects and rotting organic debris, and several species prey on genuinely destructive pests like grubs and caterpillar eggs. If you've got a small, out-of-the-way mound doing no real harm, it's completely fine to just leave it alone. The methods below are for when ants are undermining plant roots, biting people, farming aphids all over your prize plants, or building mounds somewhere you actually need to use. Number 2. Set the bait trap that does 2 jobs. This is the method that matters most on this whole list, so let's get it exactly right. Most people who try to deal with an ant colony make one of 2 mistakes. Either they squash or spray the individual ants they see on the patio, which feels productive but does absolutely nothing to the thousands still underground, including the queen, who is the only ant in that colony who can actually replace herself. Or they go the other direction and blast the whole lawn with a broad-spectrum insecticide, which does kill some ants, but also kills the bees working your flowers and the ladybugs eating your aphids, and often just pushes the surviving colony to relocate a few feet away, mound and all, completely intact. The method that actually works sits in between, and it uses the ants' own biology against them. Worker ants can't digest solid food on their own. They carry liquid food back to the nest and pass it mouth to mouth to their sisters, the larvae and the queen, a process called trophallaxis. That means if you can get a slow-acting poison into a sweet liquid, the workers are happy to carry home. They will personally deliver it to the one ant a spray can never reach. Here's the mix. 1 tablespoon of borax, 3 tablespoons of sugar, dissolved into 1 cup of warm water, stirred until nothing settles at the bottom. That ratio matters. It needs to be weak. A stronger mix kills the workers too fast, right at the bait, and the colony barely notices. Soak a few cotton balls in the solution, or pour it into small bottle caps, and set these along the trails you identified in number 1, close to the nest entrance if you can get there safely, but not directly in the nest itself. Then do the hardest part. Walk away and leave it alone. You'll actually see more ants at the bait over the first day or 2. That's a good sign, not a failure. It means word has spread through the colony. Expect the visible activity to peak and then collapse over 1 to 3 weeks as the poison works its way through the nest and eventually reaches the queen. One thing worth knowing: ants shift between wanting sugar and wanting protein, depending on what the colony needs to raise larvae at any given moment. If your sugar bait sits there untouched for a couple of days, don't assume the method failed. Try a small dab of peanut butter instead. Matching the bait to what the colony is actually hungry for is half the job. Number 3. The boiling water pour for a mound you want gone today. Boiling water is the fastest, cheapest tool you own, and it's already in your kitchen. Boil 2 to 3 gallons, carry it out carefully, and pour it slowly and directly into the mound's entrance so it soaks all the way down into the tunnels rather than just splashing across the surface. This kills a large number of ants on contact and physically collapses the tunnel structure they've spent weeks building. Here's the honest limitation, though. Boiling water rarely reaches every chamber of a mature nest, and it's not guaranteed to hit the queen, who's usually tucked deep in the lowest, most protected part of the colony. So treat this as a fast knockdown, not a single guaranteed kill. You'll likely need to repeat it over several days if the mound is well established. And be careful where you use it. This method is perfect for mounds in driveway cracks, between pavers, or in bare soil you don't mind sterilizing. Pour it anywhere near the root zone of a plant you actually like, and you'll cook those roots right along with the ants. Number 4. Build the diatomaceous earth barrier. If you'd rather not use liquid poison near your vegetable beds, diatomaceous earth, usually just called DE, is the natural alternative. And it's oddly satisfying once you understand how it actually works. DE is a fine powder made from the fossilized shells of microscopic algae. And under a microscope, those particles are covered in razor-sharp edges. There's no chemical involved at all. As an ant crawls through the powder, those edges scratch through the waxy outer layer of its exoskeleton, the layer that normally locks moisture in, and the ant simply dries out and dies over the following day or 2. Because it's a physical mechanism rather than a poison, ants can never build resistance to it, no matter how many generations you're dealing with. Buy the food-grade version specifically, not the pool filter kind, which is processed differently and isn't safe to handle the same way. Sprinkle a thin visible layer directly around the mound entrance, along the trail, and around the base of any plants you're protecting. And wear a dust mask while you do it so you're not breathing in the fine particles yourself. Reapply after rain, since DE loses its effect the moment it gets wet. Here's the one mistake that quietly ruins this method for a lot of people. Don't sprinkle DE directly onto or right next to a bait station from number 2. If a worker ant dies from DE contact on its way to or from the bait, it never makes it home to share that bait with the queen. And you've just canceled out your best method with your second best one. Keep your barriers and your bait stations in separate zones. DE around the plants and entry points you're defending, bait closer to the nest itself, and never the 2 touching. Number 5. The dish soap drench. This one lives in almost every kitchen already. Mix roughly 1 to 2 tablespoons of plain liquid dish soap into a quart of water, or go stronger with equal parts soap and water for a mature outdoor mound, and pour it directly over the nest, or spray it straight onto any ants you see actively foraging. The soap strips the waxy water-sealing coating off the ants' exoskeletons, and without it, they dehydrate and die within minutes of contact. It's gentler on surrounding plants than boiling water, which makes it the better choice inside a garden bed rather than on hard paving, though a strong concentration can still cause leaf burn on tender seedlings. So keep it off foliage you actually care about and aim the pour at the mound itself. Like the boiling water method, this is a contact kill. It only gets the ants and tunnels the liquid actually reaches, so expect to repeat it over a few days on a large colony, rather than treating one application as the final word. Number 6. Cut off the buffet. Here's the step almost nobody bothers with, and it's the reason ant problems keep coming back even after a colony gets wiped out. Remember the aphid connection from number 1? As long as there's a steady supply of honeydew from aphids, or fallen fruit rotting under a tree, or food scraps sitting in an open compost bin, you are running an all-you-can-eat sign for every ant colony within scent range. And a new one will move in to replace whichever one you just dealt with. Take a genuine look around the base of the plants where you found ant activity. Hose off aphid clusters with a strong direct jet of water in the early morning so the leaves have time to dry before evening. Most dislodged aphids can't climb back up to the plant. Bring in ladybugs or lacewings if the aphid population is heavy. They'll do ongoing cleanup that a one-time spray never will. Pick up fallen fruit promptly instead of letting it rot into the soil, and make sure your compost bin has a lid and isn't full of exposed sugary scraps. None of this kills a single ant directly, but it removes the reason a new colony would want to move in next month, which is the difference between solving this once and doing it again every single summer. Number 7. Turn your kitchen scraps into a free ant wall. Now those coffee grounds and citrus peels I mentioned at the start. Here's what they're for. This last method won't wipe out an established colony on its own, but it's completely free, safe around pets and vegetables, and it's the easiest ongoing deterrent you'll ever set up because you were about to throw this stuff away anyway. Used coffee grounds, dried out for a day so they don't clump into mush, sprinkled in a ring around the base of plants you want to protect. Disrupt the scent trail ants rely on to communicate with each other, so foragers get confused and often just give up on that route entirely. Ground cinnamon works the same way at doorways, pot rims, and raised bed edges, a line they're reluctant to cross. Citrus peels, especially placed with the white pith side down, do double duty. The acidity and strong oils repel ants on contact, and as the peels slowly break down, they actually feed the soil around your plants. None of these will outperform the borax bait or the DE barrier against a determined established colony, but layered around the edges of the beds you care about most. They're a genuinely free maintenance habit that keeps new trails from forming in the first place. If you want to go a step further heading into next season, tuck a few pots of mint or tansy near problem areas. Many gardeners plant them specifically because ants tend to avoid the strong scent. And unlike the sprays and baits, that's a fix that just sits there quietly working all season without you touching it again. So that's the full playbook. Trace the trail first so you know whether you're dealing with a food source, an aphid farm, or a real nest. Set the borax bait and let the workers carry it home to the queen. That's the method doing the actual heavy lifting here. Use boiling water or the dish soap drench when you need a fast knockdown on a mound today, and keep those two on the hard, unplanted areas or well away from tender roots. Ring your beds with diatomaceous earth, but never let it touch your bait stations. Cut off the aphids and the food debris so a new colony doesn't just move in behind the old one. And finish the job for free with the coffee grounds and citrus peels you were about to bin anyway. None of these methods are complicated, and none of them require calling in an exterminator. What they require is doing them in the right order, and giving the slow ones, the bait, the DE, the 1 to 3 weeks they actually need to work, instead of giving up after day 2 and reaching for a spray that undoes everything you just set up. If this helped, do 2 things for me. First, tell me in the comments what kind of ant problem you're actually dealing with right now, a hill in the lawn, a trail marching into the kitchen, or ants all over your roses. Because it tells me exactly what to cover next. Second, hit subscribe and tap the bell, because that colony under your garden isn't waiting for next week to keep growing. And neither should you. I'll see you in the next one.